Hello, everybody. We're live with our panel discussion on Forged in the Dark games after our Blades in the Dark session before, earlier this day. We might talk about our Blades in the Dark game later when we get to a discussion of the different systems, but for now, I think it's best to just jump right in. Have everybody introduce themselves and also maybe say a little bit about their experience with Forged in the Dark games. So I'm going to start. I'm Janis, he, him, one of the team members of Find Out Productions, this here channel. And I don't know how long I've been playing Blades in the Dark and other Forged in the Dark systems specifically, but they did pull me back into the hobby after I left it in the early 2010s, just because certain things on Google Plus were just a little toxic, and also board games were just more interesting at the time to me than RPGs. But then Blades in the Dark came out and pulled me back in, and fast forward a few years to 2020, I don't even know what it was. I think it was 2024, when I got to GM my first actual play on Starcrawl, and that happened to be Blades in the Dark. And now I'm back with another Blades in the Dark campaign on this channel, funnily enough, with the exact same playbooks in the main group. But I have also played, not on stream yet, but I have played a lot of other different Forged in the Dark games, including one that is called Neon Black. And that brings us to another panelist whose turn it is now to introduce herself, December.
Hi, I'm December. She, her, trans writer, TTRPG designer. I've been making games full time for about 6 years now. And I've been playing Blades in the Dark for however long it's been out, I think. Or soon after it came out is when I started playing it. It was at a time when I'd been really burnt out on creative work and just stuff in general, other role-playing games, and it really kind of ignited my love of RPGs again and storytelling. And I have made a lot of versions of this game, from cyberpunk to dark fantasy to weird, funny dungeon crawling things. I deeply love the system and all the other games that have arisen from it, so I can't wait to talk about it.
And going from the veteran player and designer to somebody newer to this, which one am I going to pick? Val looks ready, so I'm just going to...
Oh, it's great you think I look ready. Hi, my name is Val, or Space Valkyries. My pronouns are she, they. I've been in the TTRPG actual play space now for about almost 2.5, 3 years. Somehow I felt like I was a baby at it, but I'm not anymore. And I've been in a Girl by Moonlight mini series for the past 2, 3 months. And that is my first introduction to Forged in the Dark anything. I haven't played Blades in the Dark at all. I will soon, in a one shot coming up in a few months, but or a few weeks rather. But yeah, I'm completely ignorant. I'm happy Giannis just let me sit here.
Yay.
And we're gonna just continue just zigzagging around between more experienced and less experienced people. So Prince, you can introduce yourself next.
Hey, I'm Prince, he, him, or Prince Infidel, if you are also feeling like you're nowhere near as experienced as December is. I have been. How long have I been playing Blades? I keep asking myself this question. I have no answer. I know I came across it. In Meat Space, I run one shots for my local queer community center. So I was in the process of looking for one shots. It's got to be 6 years ago at this point. I came across Blades in the Dark and ran it there. And even before I ran it, I fell in love. Like this, the setting, the system, fell in love, ran it there, and ran it again, and then started finding people like, hey, you want to play Blades in the Dark? I'll run. And since then, I've run a number of one shots, a number of games of it. Uh, Janis's table is actually the first time I've gotten to play Blades in the Dark as a player. I was a forever GM and honestly happy with that. It was still a lot of fun. But now I get to be on the other side of the table in finally making trouble for someone else.
And to end it with somebody who has only GM'd a Forged in the Dark game so far, it's Ariel.
It's perfect. Started and ending with 2 of the 1/5 members of the final crew. And yeah, I'm relatively new. I have never played a Forged in the Dark game. I have only GM'd now 10 sessions of Mutants in the Night. So very limited view compared to some others in this panel, which is why I am here. I am learning and loving this style of play. I've been playing TTRPGs for like 6 years. I'm like a lot of people who got in during the pandemic stuff, played D&D because that's just what everyone plays, and then was like, oh, there's literally thousands of other options out there, and I don't need to stick with these people who are chasing me away. So I'm really excited to start getting into more systems and learning this one in particular. There are a lot of parts of it that I really enjoy, particularly sort of like the retconning or like playing aspect, which I had at my table all the time when someone's like, can we just pretend that I did this 2 days ago? It's like, now there's a mechanic for it. We can talk about that as we go through some of the other mechanics that we all love. But I'm excited to be here also, even though I don't know more than, again, 10 sessions GMing. That's 8, 10 sessions. I can count.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, flashbacks and also devil's bargains are kind of things that have just changed my GMing brain a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, love Devin's Bark. I've been sitting, no one has taken one yet. And I'm always like, are you sure you don't want to?
Is that
Are
sort
you
of
sure
like
right now?
is that like Girl by Moonlight's The Poison Promise?
I think it is. It's like you can get an extra die or something, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
cost you something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the GM's like, oh, I'll let you do it if you're okay with this.
It's so stressful, but I find it so fun. It's like, oh well, I mean, if I can try it, why not? And they're like, okay.
Which is, I mean, we started just before we went live. We started just thinking about like, hey, how many Forged in the Dark games are there even? I think if we go back and forth between me, Prince, and December, especially December, because December just has written so many, like we can probably get to at least 50 at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't even break a sweat, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many just it goes from like the obvious ones, like very soon after Blades in the Dark came out, like Stras Achimovich and Sean Nittner made Scum and Villainy, the Star Wars one, which is like, yeah, that just makes sense to have. And that became one of the big Forged in the Dark games. But there are also things like, what is the name again? There's one that is basically, I think a lot of people here will have seen Spirited Away once or twice.
Yeah.
There is a game that is pretty much meant to simulate the kitchen there.
Spirited Cafe.
Thank you.
I would
yes.
love that.
Which is just,
Yes,
yeah.
I've run that.
Oh, okay.
Of course you have.
I haven't yet, but I'm just like, at some point I will. Like, there's also something like Squeakeasy where you run a mouse speakeasy. Like, there's so many.
I need to play that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just like, for a lot of them, you'd keep the playbooks in place kind of in a similar way as they are. Like some Forge in the Dark games reskin the playbooks, but then change one of the main things that we can maybe talk about first, which is kind of the crew mechanic. Like with Spirited Cafes, Prince, you have played it, so you can maybe explain that a bit better, but you actually build up your kind of family that is trapped there, making meals for a witch, but also your kitchen.
Yeah, it's a family and kitchen system. So like the game mechanics are about like your family relationships and how those interact, but also mainly like what do you have in your kitchen and how good that is, rather than what are your how well you can steal things or what supernatural abilities you could bring in, which is funny.
Yeah.
Like one of the big upgrades you can get in that game is just getting an extra stove.
Also true in real life.
Yeah.
I was like, have you ever you cooked on like a single top burner camping stove and then like seeing a 6-range grill double oven? You're like, no, this is how you cook.
Yeah.
This is how you cook.
Yeah.
You sit over here with a
That's how
microwave.
And I mean, of course, like the crews or what stands in for the crews, like these mechanics are also about like what does the game want to say to you, or what does it want to emulate? Because these are ultimately like powered by the Apocalypse games, not so much in the conflict resolution at all, but in the just kind of narrative, narrative design. You can definitely see it. And I mean, in standard Blades, you have the crews, you advance your crew, and you have a lot of just faction entanglements. And that's what it's all about. You have this just pressure cooker environment of the city of Duskwall and the just gang wars and conflicts and also alliances there. Shout out to the Dimmer sisters, who are currently our crew's best friends and just slightly creepy. And that's where I would say I'm gonna ask December, because I've played Neon Black, and it specifically appealed to me because I was looking for a cyberpunk game in the widest sense, and there are multiple Forge in the Dark cyberpunk ones. There is one that is just Runners in the Shadows, I think, which is just like you take the setting of Shadowrun and just make it Forge in the Dark. But what appealed to me about yours, about Neon Black, is just it's about surviving as a community and building up your community that you're in. So maybe describe like what the it's been out for a while. I hope you actually remember, and I'm not asking you an impossible question, but like what was the design process or the thought that went into that there?
That is an excellent question. I think it was I had play tested the first like iteration of Neon Black a few times, which was it's kind of based on like advice that John Harper often gives when people want to like start making their own Forge of the Dark games, is like just scrape the paint off, replace it with your own coat of paint, and go. Which is great because you can just like, okay, instead of like, a knife, you have cool cyber knife and yada yada yada, and like it's really easy, like you were saying before, like some of the playbooks are just like they're there to emulate storytelling tropes. They are archetypes. They are like a character you see in these kind of stories. They're the tough one, the conniving one, the one's got creepy magic. And so you can very easily just like slap a different coat of paint on it to be like, okay, you have the hacker, the tough, but they got cyber arms, whatever. And eventually I kind of started to realize that like it felt very different to me just being a bunch of like criminals in this setting where all of the things you're fighting are much more evil than you are, and you aren't really providing a solution to that or like a way to sidestep that capitalistic process. You're just kind of doing the same thing. You're trying to steal more for yourself. You're trying to get one over, which is what the corporations and other gangs are already doing. And so it didn't feel fun in a way. It just kind of felt like sort of like when I've been like in some like D&D tables, you're just like, we're just kind of here perpetuating cycles that I don't really want to be a part of. So So yeah, the idea of like making it about a community, because that's also the thing that's true in just a lot of cyberpunk media, is like it's about people who are trying to survive and find a different way of living, or like wanting to get the one big scores thing, get out from under and stuff like that. So that ended up being a much more fruitful avenue for making the setting of like, okay, like what are these different communities, what kind of stories they want to tell. Like is it the stack there's like a bunch of people that has like, it's a huge community, but they don't have enough resources and money to like escape the like corporate charter they're under? Or are you like out in like the city of Nod, the weird like suburbs that are kind of like abandoned by everything, and you need to like take care of like, we need like water and food and like solar panels and like get the fundamental stuff done. So yeah, kind of it helped to tell cyberpunk stories that I was a lot more interested in, which is the stuff of like figuring out how to survive outside those systems of capital, while also like straight up stealing and killing those people to get their resources so you could live, because they don't need them all. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It does feel less overpowered than a lot of other. It's not like you running in and you've got the ability to call down lightning from the sky. Even if you are dealing with a playbook that's got some form of magic or a power ability, it's not. You're not OP. You're not coming in here and just smashing stuff. You're just kind of a regular person in whatever world you are in, whatever regular is for that world. And I do enjoy just surviving, like not out saving the princess kind of stuff. We're not world heroes. My community knows me. We are dealing with our people and moving towards a solution for us.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it's definitely, those are the stories I'm much more interested in telling these days. I've had my, like, I ran a 7-year-long D&D campaign that was about saving the world and shit. I'm good. I did my time. It was a great time. I love it. I'm still friends with all those people. It was amazing. But yeah, I want to talk about like, I want to talk about like dangling CEOs out of tall towers, and what it means to have like a cool internet community when everyone can like, exist in 3D space.
I find that interesting compared to like Girl by Moonlight, which is a little more epic and over the top, and like you do a cool little power transformation sequence, and you have a cool little like Sailor Moon level badassery going on there, and but you still have the community focus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've been really loving with the miniseries that I'm part of, House of Starfall. We're all siblings, all the characters in that one. We're all siblings. We're trying to get back to our home world, and we're hiding out on Earth. And so there's that element of existing in a community. You have obligations that stress you out, and like I just think that is such a refreshing focus. Then it's okay, we have to go save the day. It's like, okay, well, how do you handle family dinner when y'all are all very stressed? And do you explode it and maybe cause drama? I didn't do that.
What's the downtime?
Of course not.
Yeah, I didn't
No.
start a fight at family dinner. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to like one of the things that made me fall in love with Blades, and why I keep making games about it, is because like that stuff in Girl by Moonlight, like it does such a good job of giving you a framework for like tell stories. It's not so much about like it being a game. It's about like, hey, storytelling is like character archetypes and tropes. It is all these things that we can like, there are so many good mechanical bits that are just things you do in good storytelling, like clocks to telegraph danger, big faction moves you can kind of see off screen, developing relationships, like even just like the harm and conditions that can change how your character functions because they're under a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
That's just stories. That's just good stories. It's characters changing and getting worse, and then maybe getting better and getting into fights at family dinner. Like that's just what it is. So
I love that tension, honestly. It's been so fun. Like every session I'm like, can we just go a little longer? And it's like, no, it's been the time. We gotta go. but
That's my favorite thing about running the game, is just offering devil's bargains that I know are going to drive a wedge between the characters in the crew.
Hell yeah.
And then it's like just smashing them together.
Yeah, that's again one of the great parts, is that the game does such a good job of like, it invites the players in on the nonsense too, right? Like, because so many like traditional TTRPGs, D&D stuff is like, it's all kind of top down. And this is something that's true in a lot of other systems, but like, no, it's like, this is collaborative. We're all here to make these people worse together, and you get to opt into how you want to make your character worse, because it's going to happen, because they're a criminal in this space that ghosts exists and there's no room, so everyone's going to get worse.
But now that I've also
I
talked
also
about
going off
sorry.
what she said about
Go on.
just going off what she said about like uh, bringing the players into it, because I do think like traditional D&D style role playing and in whether it means to or not encourages a certain level of adversarialness between the GM and the players, and Blades and various other games actively encourage like no, we are all the problem here, like we are making this mess together. uh, Especially I think the flashback mechanic
Oh yeah.
in any other game that would be like thrown out, because that is inviting the players to create problems. But here it's like, no, we're asking for you to bring in a new problem as a solution.
Yeah, and I find that a lot easier to run as a GM for me, because just this concept of the back and forth of like how you like, there's a lot of built-in back and forth in action resolution and also devil's bargains of like, hey, I would say maybe this is how it works. How do you feel about that? Sometimes it takes a while, but it means that you can actually go really hard. Like I am a lot more comfortable doing terrible things to the characters in Forged in the Dark games than I would ever be in D&D, where it's just like, here's a dragon.
You can kill
fight it.
someone.
Oh, you're dead. Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah. And the, okay, are you okay with the character death? Cool, but then your character death, like, well, the game's over.
Yeah.
You want to re-roll?
Yeah. But yeah, that brings me kind of to what I want to ask Val and Ariel, which I originally wanted to start with, but then we kind of went off into the direction of communities and crews and so on. But since you're the two newer people to Forged in the Dark games, you're coming to this with a lot of experience running or playing TTRPGs, but you're new to this system. No.
I've run 0 games.
Yeah, okay. But between you, you are a very experienced GM and experienced player. So between the two of you,
Powers combined.
Yeah. But yeah, how have you found that the kind of framework of Forged in the Dark games has kind of affected the storytelling at your tables? Just what has changed compared to other games, do you think?
I think Ariel should go first.
Those are the two favorite things I really loved about this game are the flashback mechanic and the devil's bargain. And it's because I was already doing that anyway. If you've ever been at a table, particularly in D&D things where you're like, can we just, I forgot that I said I wanted to do this. Can we just pretend that my character did that? And I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I do a lot of retconning for small things like, no, you didn't tell me that you picked up your sword before you left the apartment today, but you shouldn't have to narrate every single thing you do. And then some larger things where you're like, I really did forget about that, but I have it in my notes from 2 sessions ago. Is it okay if I do this? Because I did want to do it. To have a mechanic which really allows you to play through it, think critically about it, and then bring it into the game. Yeah, it means I, as the GM, can throw a lot of stuff at you, knowing you have a back route if you need to get out some way. But it also means we get a chance to develop the character outside of the situation itself. It can be that ally who you know from school, that person who you work with, the person you passed on the street, who you saying you saw like there's so many ways to help a player add to the world. It's not solely on me. We are building this together. Tell me what you want. Oh, you said the guy at the grocery store stuck you a $20 bill. We can make that happen. I don't fucking care. So I really love the flashback aspect and the devil's bargain. Failing as a complete stop in a system to me is like when you're doing an interview and someone asks you a yes or no question. There's nowhere to go after that. But if there's a devil's bargain and you're willing to risk something or push something or sacrifice something, then now we have so many more options for how a resolution can be found to any number of situations. And again, it's done together. It's collaborative. What are you willing to give up as the player? What do I, as the GM, know I have coming down the pipeline and can either bring it in early or set it up for like later down the road? So those two mechanics, I was already doing them. To have an actual written way to input it into the system, beautiful. Love it. That's been my rant I've been thinking about for like 2 weeks. So nothing the panel, y'all. That's all you get. Sorry.
No, I mean, I think like this, but at what cost? That is kind of just the tagline for a lot of March in the Dark games. It's like, yeah, you're probably gonna succeed if you pile on enough shit, but
yeah,
what is it gonna cost you though?
Take some stress, roll again, add that die. What are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
How important is this to you?
Yeah.
Ooh, I love it.
I guess on my end with it, Girl by Moonlight specifically, I really like, and I don't know how much of this is just Forged in the Dark overall versus Girl by Moonlight specific, but that the above table conversation is not only encouraged, but it's in the gameplay. Like, you are supposed to have that above table. Let's discuss what we're doing. The House of Starfall is specifically the At the Brink of the Abyss series. So we have a hideout that we're in that we're trying to repair together. Like, there's progress clocks and stuff, and we're all kind of encouraged to do certain things together. Do we want to spend time together? What do our obligations look like? How much are we fighting? Things like that. And I've never had it in that collaborative, like, yes, obviously we're like in every TTRPG you're doing above table chatter, but again, for it to be baked into the system is just really interesting to me. And then my entry point to TTRPGs in general is Monster of the Week. I think I'm most experienced with Powered by the Apocalypse stuff. So the investigation section, and I'm like, this is where the Powered by the Apocalypse is. I see. So you have that more narrative focus, like, I just want to investigate and look into certain things, and then you go, but above board, here's what I'm trying to do, and how do I make this progress clock? Like, I want to do towards that. How do I, and it's just a really fascinating combination of things. I really like it.
How do investigations work exactly in Girl by Moonlight?
I think during your downtime phase, I believe that is when you can do investigations. My GM's gonna come out of nowhere and be like, Val, you're spelling it wrong. But they're not here, so it's fine.
Maybe they'll watch it later.
Yeah, maybe. But it's kind of the same thing. You have a series of questions, like, for example, my character is a time traveler. So if I want to gather information, I have specific questions I can ask, kind of like in Monster of the Week, where you can ask specific things like what is being concealed here and stuff like that. For my time traveler specifically, I can ask, okay, well, what's defying the flow of time here? And then that can flavor things differently. Or I can use that to progress a clock and uncover something. And I really didn't ever think to use like that Powered by the Apocalypse like investigation setup like that. So I've been obsessed with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just for my own, as I am getting more into it and thinking about devil's bargain deals. Does anyone have a very interesting devil's bargain that they can remember, or one that stood out as like a pivotal moment in a campaign? Because to some degree, those are just like, oh, it helped you get through this one system, but depending on what it is, it affects the rest of the campaign.
I mean, one that pops up in recent memory is yes, you succeed in killing this person, but you die too. That was the big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. What are you willing to sacrifice? Is it important enough for you to move the story forward that you're willing to lose this player, this character that you've created?
One I offered that I was actually surprised that the player took up some time ago was you get your bonus to this role, but the person that you have been building a relationship with sees you in a different light now, and things are going to be much harder for you to move forward with them from here on out. And they're like, yes, I take that right away. Like, there was no hesitation. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
Welcome back to, like, not even zero, just negatives with this
Yeah.
person now.
Yeah.
Mine is always ticking a clock. I always want to have at least one like complication clock or like a faction clock happening, and that is always mine because I always like, yeah, you can have another dice. Just let me tick this clock once. It's fine.
Oh,
It's
you,
like
you
just
have
ink-
factions clock open? Because I
yeah.
just kind of keep them in the background. Okay.
Usually I have them open, but like it won't be obvious what they are representing necessarily. It kind of changes based on tables. Some tables don't want to know, some tables do. But yeah, I will always be like,
Yeah.
because you just increment that a little bit, and then suddenly one bad roll and it fills completely. It's like the house is on fire now. I don't know what to tell you. Just get those tellers marketing.
I mean,
Important
little
question.
look behind the curtain. Sorry, Prince. Just one thing as an explanation. Like factions, as they exist in many Forged in the Dark games, have their own goals, and those are usually just represented by clocks, as many things are. So you have, let's say, a 6-segment clock. Whenever time passes or something happens, you just fill a segment, and once all of them are full, the faction does something. For the Dimmer Sisters in Blades in the Dark, that is controlling the spirit trade, which our group currently is helping with a lot. And there can be other things like that. And yeah, I mean, I keep those hidden a lot of the time, not even because I don't want the players to know, but because I think it's mostly that I've often played with people who are new to the games, and I was like, okay, if I just put 10 different clocks in front of you, then maybe that's a bit too much. So I can save you from 4 different clocks, at least if I keep the faction clocks hidden. And that's what I've been doing.
Mhm.
December, I'm curious, do your players pay attention to the faction clocks?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, it kind of depends on the group. There are some groups, like my at-home group that I run like about every week. They like to be surprised by that kind of thing, so they often don't. But usually with like the online folks I play with, when we're like using Roll20 or something, like yeah, they will see it. And like I'm running a Blade 68 game right now, and they are spies and trying to unravel this conspiracy, and there are too many faction clocks, and yeah, they know about those. But yeah, it depends.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if my people are looking. I think that I'm filling it out, but I'm not. I didn't make a conscious decision to either show it or not show it. I've just been doing it and didn't think about showing them. Maybe I should, because at least the Mutants game is it's a limited campaign, so each faction only has 2 or 3, and then those mechanics directly tie into the like, oh, you fill this clock, and now you can do this during your downtime. So my folks need to know it at least.
See, I knew there were progress clocks for like the investigation stuff, like the tiered. I didn't know there were. So if we have clocks, my GM is not telling you.
I mean, there are clocks. There are clocks. They're hidden. That means that you just don't see them.
That actually explains a few things about suddenly things showing up, and I was like, "This is random. I don't." It's like it's not random actually. So surprise. My GM's gonna be like, "When did you learn about?"
So for our game, I have started just writing in-universe newspapers, and those sometimes show a little bit of like what's going on with the other factions. Like somebody has just disappeared a few scavengers from the Deathlands and stolen artifacts that they had, and it's like, yeah, somebody did that. Maybe you'll find out who it was soon. Maybe also not. I'm not sure where you're going. Like, I'm just giving you a couple of your newspaper articles.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because the first time I'd ever seen the concept of a progress clock like that actually wasn't in a TTRPG at all. It was in a game called Citizen Sleeper, which is based off TTRPG. So we've come full circle a little bit. But
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, because the clock is always there and you see the little sliver, like every turn it goes forward. So that was my introduction to like a clock system adding tension. And then when that fills up, something happens,
Yeah.
good or bad. So when I got to Girl by Moonlight, I was like, progress clocks. It's the thing. It's like Leonardo
Yeah.
pointing at TV, like, ah.
And I mean, a concept like this has been around for a long time in TTRPGs as well. Like, I think the One Ring first edition, which came out in like 2010 or 11 or something, had like already had skill challenges where it's like, okay, you have so many attempts and you have to get this many successes. And even like D&D 4th edition, I think, had a similar system with skill challenges. But then Blades in the Dark really was like, this is a clock. You can use a clock for the following things or possibly also more things. And it's just everywhere. And it's just like, okay, this really just kind of focuses your mind on this concept of like, this can be a clock. It's not just like, okay, there's a skill challenge mechanic somewhere to the side. It's just like so integral that it just really makes you think about that.
Yeah. I will say, I think that's in general one of the strengths of Fortune in the Dark systems is that it takes there are no new mechanics under the sun. Like everyone's thought of everything at this point. Like, and games have been around for so long before we ever started writing them down. But it takes a number of really good mechanics and kind of focuses them in. And makes them simple enough that it's easy for people to jump in, but also feel impactful enough that you care when you get like that extra pip or that new ability. It doesn't feel like, oh, I got a +2.
Yeah. And I'm not
It
asking
feels
between
like,
each
oh,
session
something
if I
about
leveled up.
me is significantly changed.
Yeah.
Without necessarily, I think, like Val said, without feeling like overpowered, or like you're epic. No, that was Ariel. But I think we're all on the same page on this.
Yeah.
It's directly related to what you've chosen to do. It's similar to also the skills you're building. It makes sense you to be getting better in that skill, as opposed to like, oh, I just level up in DM. Here's 1,000 things I can do. I can break this character by taking this feat and adding it to this person and taking this level up, and all of a sudden you're like, I do 170 points of damage. Isn't this fun? You're like, well, yeah, I guess you beat the game.
I feel like that's a lot of people tend to want a power fantasy, right? They are very much, I want the hero's journey. I want to be the cool person who like has the limelight and the final like badass move. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I don't really want that. I want a community focused story. I want a character that has to work with other people. Kind of like the opposite of the hero's journey in a sense, but like messier, I guess, unless I alone can do this epic cool move and save the day against the, like that, like attitude. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I just find that it creates a lot of selfishness at a narrative. And when it comes to like a collaborative storytelling, it leads to a lot of people who want it to be all about their special, cool, like protagonist. And it's just not as fun. I don't know. It's not as collaborative sometimes. But maybe I've just been at bad tables. I don't know.
I can see that. I think it depends on the person, but it also, to some degree, like if you're playing with a table that chose a system and characters that were all balanced, and you are the person who punches, you're the person who talks, and you're the person who magics. It means anytime someone's got to talk to somebody, it's just like, it's your turn to shine. This is what you do. You just do that. So it's time to punch something. Ask the person who punches. And you are really, really good at whatever you chose to do. But there are very few of us who only have one good thing that they're able to do. So many of us have different aspects and facets and skill sets. It makes more sense that either you know a little bit about everything or you're just struggling more with everything you do. I appreciate the struggle. I see what you mean. As I've gotten older, I don't need to be One Punch Man.
Yeah.
I want to cry at the table. Okay, so we just did the Juneteenth stream, and it was liminal horror, so like very not powered characters at all.
Yeah.
But my just took me on this up and down roller coaster, and at the end, the story ended. It did not come to a resolution, which I also agree with, but I felt I had gone through a journey. It didn't necessarily have to be, I climbed the mountain, stuck my flag in the top, and I succeeded, and I'm now the hero. I'm just like, oh no, I played a character who went through something, and I got to experience that right alongside with them, like really extreme emotions right alongside them. And that's just as fun for me now as breaking down the door and killing the dragon. I also like that sometimes. Sometimes I just
it's
want
the
to succeed.
sometimes for me, because like last year I wasn't a player, I ran it, but that was kind of the last time I told myself I would touch D&D as a GM until they actually like bring out a new edition that is actually new. And now this also comes with the addendum, and maybe they start acknowledging unions without being forced. But like my goodbye to D&D was a 20th level campaign where every player was some form of goblin, and they just killed their god. And I was like, that's cool. And that was fun. But I did that once, and I'm honestly like, I'm good. I don't I don't want to do that for another 2 years afterwards.
It's the Homer, it's the Odyssey thing. It's a great grand story. He doesn't want to be home that long. It doesn't all need to be Cyclopses. Sometimes I just want to rest. What I do with my downtime, I went to the library and I worked out and I de-stressed. Not a long rest where you're also watching for, people attacking you in the woods kind of shit.
Yeah, like I mean, I like these just super high fantasy stories, but like, no, I'm not going to run a 5-year D&D campaign like that anymore. I don't think, because that's just, I do like it if it's a bit more grounded for my regular games, like a campaign every 2 years or so that is like that, and then just is over after a set number of sessions. Like, yeah, cool. But that's more like a palette cleanser at this point. It's not my default at all anymore.
It's the sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with all things in life. Sometimes you want to do one thing, but sometimes you want to do others. We are the duality of man. It's awesome.
I say having that variety is nice.
And having people like December, like creating all these games that provides space for it. So thank you. I'm going to start looking into your catalog now, because it is, I can give money to somebody who I see on a face to face instead of this giant corporation that's just pumping out one IP for 40 years and expecting us to just accept it. These are creatives just like me who want to be in the space, and I do enjoy that aspect of some of these more niche TTRPGs as well, instead of the larger giant ones. There's again nothing wrong with it. We need companies to some degree, but if I'm going to buy something, that buy-in fallacy of, I already have so many books that cost $50. Well, I can go get 500 TTRPGs for $50 someplace else and try them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been really nice, like being part of this community, and like I joined the Blades of the Dark community back in like the Google Plus days, and like been part of like the Discord server, and like seeing just so many different iterations on the formula, and like taking it in different directions, like in like how Mutants of the Night kind of focuses on like specific places and aspects of community, or how like Girl by Moonlight does the thing with like the what's it called, like the sets, the play sets you're using have like changed the story a lot
dramatically at some point. Like I didn't realize at first that there's like a mecha
yes.
Well, yeah, there is.
Oh hell yeah.
There's a mecha one there. The one, like I said, the one that we're running is At the Brink of the Abyss, which is like as a world like lost basically. So we lost our, like, we're hiding out on Earth trying to get our Power Ranger Sailor Moon level like family back on our little alien homeworld. It's very fun. It's very over the top, and very like 80s inspired in that sense, like Saturday morning cartoons stuff. But it's very fun. But yeah, there's every series is extremely different.
I want to actually, like, we had this idea of Prince and December, and maybe also me just rattling off all the different Forged in the Dark games. We can't do that. It's going to take too long and get a bit boring. But Ariel and Val, describe a Forged in the Dark system that you could see existing, and we're going to see if it actually exists already.
Ooh,
We're going to test our knowledge here, because for a lot of ideas,
Oh, no.
it probably exists.
I mean, for me, you know, I gotta say something with like either cyberpunky or like giant robots. I know mecha TTRPG stuffs. Honestly, there's so many, and I'm so happy. I thrive.
Yeah, they've
Um,
had a weird renaissance all of a sudden. Like, where
I
did that come from?
love it as somebody
Yes.
who's a giant robot enthusiast. It's like, yes, please let me suffer in this giant robot and have narrative in it. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so
Really?
There's
there's
Beam Saber for sure.
Sorry.
Beam Saber.
Saber.
They're probably
For-
more, and that's why I'm kind of just like, somebody else will have to fill in for me.
I mean, there are more cyberpunk ones, obviously.
Yeah,
like, there's the
cyberpunk
one
for
December
sure.
Road. There's cyberpunk, like cyber plus.
The one shot one, yes, yeah.
That's really cool.
There's Runners in the Dark.
Yeah, Hack the Planet, which
Yeah,
is
it's
the
Hack
more
the
the
Planet.
ecological breakdown focused one.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Like environmental terrorists.
oh, kind of. You
Kinda,
can be eco terrorists, but mostly like there are just one of the main aspects of the system is that you have so-called just acts of God, which is just the climate fucks you over completely. Yeah. I haven't played it because, well, I ended up playing December's game. But yeah, that was just a draw for me, was the climate breakdown aspect. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's another thing in recently I feel like I've seen quite a bit in TTRPGs is like you're in a world where either the gods are dead or like they're like fallen to some capacity, and you, a just tiny person, are somehow using that or trying to survive it. Like I've seen that in TTRPGs a fair bit, and it's really fun.
Yeah. And I mean, the allegory there is very clear, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Why are we all writing about that? I don't know. It's a mystery to me.
It's so strange.
Okay, I've got 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe I gotta like write while I'm doing. So one is maybe a selfish one because there's a terrible turf who has stolen something from my childhood. Looking back, it wasn't very good IP, but I was a very Harry Potter kid. I just can't support that terrible, 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 terrible person anymore. So if, like, I would not buy a Harry Potter themed one. Just
is
better.
A magical.
I don't think it fits
school.
exactly, but there's Arcanademia, which I think has you playing faculty instead of students, if I remember correctly. But it
I'd be more
is.
interested
I was
in that
immediately
anyway.
thinking, but I was immediately thinking about like the houses being the factions already, and then
Yeah,
some
probably exists, but I can't think of one.
It's on the tip of my goddamn tongue. Fuck. It exists.
Yeah, I know it does.
It has to exist.
I was
The
never
crossover
a
between Harry Potter
fan at all. That's my excuse. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
watched
just-
the movies because Emma Watson was cute, and that's kind of the entire thing for me.
My
I
friends
don't
dragged
know.
me to the movies.
It is.
That's basically
As an adult now, I fully recognized it's actually not that good of a story. The writing was, but it had a huge impact on me more so.
Yeah.
Was a large part of my life. I'm like, oh no, it's not that good now, and she's a bad person, but it's still wrapped up in me. I also anything shonen, like middle school kind of Japanese anime would be fun for me.
Like a My Hero Academia is very specific thing.
Oh, I mean, like, what's my like card captors, middle school kind of style. I guess, well, Hunter x Hunter is kind of there with adults, but Gon's like 10 years old, I think, canonically. Even Yu Yu Hakusho, they're like middle school, technically 12, 13 years old. It's also a 14-year-old who on a regular basis just beats the shit out of adult men. It's
You just be
wild.
like, what do you mean those were 14-year-old? Have you seen?
I know. Dude's ripped. And they're all smoking
God.
cigarettes and stuff.
Anyway.
I also wrote down isekais because I really have gotten into that as well. Just escaping my world. I don't know why. And then anything
Why
Honey I
would you
Shrunk
want
the
to do
Kid.
that?
I want a Honey I Shrunk the Kids version.
So for the isekai stuff, I'd recommend there is Exile and Crescent by my friend Emma Costa. Crescent is your kids. They're like kind of stuck in like this dream world. It's very kind of light and fun and like weird magical items. And Exile is the same thing, but you are like young adults and teens trapped in a nightmare world and trying to survive.
What are they? Exile and
Crescent.
Crescent from Emma Carson?
Emma Costa.
Costa. I will look that up. I can't do the shit out while I'm doing this, but I do. Like, there's so many options. So if I can start looking at a system that I already love and just stamp it onto another IP or kind of style that I love, that's what homebrewing is. So many folks were already changing or doing these things. To have a system which is designed around what you already love is amazing to me.
Yeah, more mecha stuff. Case and Soul by Briar Sovereign, and Disaster Wing by a couple of Drakes are also very good.
Interesting. I know both Briar and a couple of Drakes, not personally, but from just other games. So I didn't even know those games, which is honestly, shows how much is out there. Maybe if you're looking for it.
Huge explosion of
I'm thriving. I love giant robots. I could give you a dissertation on why I think giant robots and queer people go like this, but it's fine. Keep my life.
Here for it.
Yeah. What were your other ideas? Ariel?
The HP, Harry Potter, Shonen Jump stuff, Isekais, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Those are the four, I would love to.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Janis, was that one of the ones that made it to Europe, or did you?
Oh, yeah. For sure. That was huge. That was that was just every summer it would just get sent out to the airwaves. I don't think that, but I mean, there's probably, but I don't know it. I was thinking, can you run that in Slug Blaster, kind of? Because Slug Blaster has you just, it's period appropriate because it is like skater kids in a different dimension. Just, it's not isekai, but it's just, you travel to another dimension, and that's the tonally maybe close one to Shrinking the Kids, but not quite. You could just hack it very easily, I think.
I think tonally though, Fortune and Dark games, while they don't have to be dark, they tend to be.
Oh, no,
they tend to have more mature themes.
I want them to be darker. Or I do like that aspect of it.
So I think with genres that tend towards younger or teenage protagonists, they're less likely to have many Fortune and Dark games, just because I think people are less willing to okay, hey, do you want this devil's bargain or this bunch of stress and trauma for you 14-year-old?
That's perfect. Do you remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? They almost get stepped on. It's them almost being murdered for an hour and a half. They run into a group of ants. Imagine if they hadn't got away and an ant just pincers an entire body of a girl.
The dad's process childhood trauma is what I'm hearing.
I do know there's
I know what you're talking about.
Inspired Fortune and Dark game.
Animorphs,
that's dark too. In the very first book, that kid
dark.
fully turns into a hawk.
Bird.
Yeah, and it's partly he chooses it because his home life is so shitty. He'd rather be a bird. Oh my god, yeah. People underestimate how dark kids things are just because it's this is designed for children. You're like, are you also dealing with children, adult themes, but from a child's perspective? Oh, this adult's mean to me. No, realistically, that adult probably should be arrested and shouldn't be allowed around children. He's an abusive person, but he's just the bad guy in a kid's book.
I think that is kind of a interesting thing that some Fortune Dark games do, because it's very it can get kind of dark, but it can also it encourages you to have those kind of conversations early. This is something I'm constantly doing in my games. I'm constantly saying in other Fortune Dark games, the session 0 is important. It is not optional. This is where we are going to talk about meta-textual shit, what is the tone of this going to be? Slug Blaster is very good at that. Slug Blaster, one of my favorites. Because it's hey, this can be gonzo and cartoony and pretty low stakes if you want, but it could also be really dark shit. These are kids doing hoverboard tricks in other dimensions and punching through space-time. That's dangerous. You can play up that aspect of like, you know, bad home life and like people running away and like getting their fucking atoms scrambled, or it could be more cartoony. Like I run games that are both like that with Slug Blaster, and it's so
Yeah.
nice to like live in a space where it's like, no, like let's talk about the tone, let's talk about how like this can go from really really serious stuff to like more lighthearted.
Yeah, one experience that I have there is like first with Blades, just how different GMs have run it, and I've also just like especially now that I can just find a Blades in the Dark stream whenever I want to. Kind of, it's like sometimes I just tune into something and it's like, oh, that's how you run that. Like people are just having a score that takes 3 sessions or something, and it's just like maneuvering around like at a party, and I was like, oh man, my games are much more just action oriented and also kind of a bit more lethal. Like not even necessarily lethal, but like we have traumatized 3 of our characters so far in 11 sessions.
So far. Give
So
it time.
far.
There'll be more.
Keep the stress.
Yeah. So just how often you actually call for roles in a mechanical sense can affect that a lot. And also, yeah, just the tone can be very different depending on what you want. There's like with Blades, a lot of this, like Blades has this very clear idea of like, okay, this is a gothic horror city, but a lot of things aren't necessarily like spelled out and are just left for up to interpretation anyway. Like how common actually are ghosts, for example? How oppressive is the government? Like these things are kind of, it's assumed that to some extent that is there, but like how much of it you want, that's exactly what you need to have in a session 0. And another game that I think may or may not be available anymore after a bit of just Kickstarter stuff is Wicked Ones. Wicked Ones is based on a game that was old when I was young, which is Dungeon Keeper, which I'm not sure anybody remembers. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The old heads remember.
Yeah, exactly.
I do know.
I'm sorry.
It was released in
I mean, I
97.
think we're all the age of 30, so like a lot of us have probably at least seen it.
Probably seen
don't
it.
Yeah, I don't think I played it, but it's like, oh, that's cool. I just never played it, but it was like in gaming magazines when those were around and so on. Yeah, that's basically you are monsters and you build up your dungeon, and that can also be super cartoonish. That's kind of how I ended up having that when I GM'd it, and that was just a matter of what group I played it with, because I played that at a community center with just a bunch of just people who were 10 years younger than me at the time or more. Like, so yeah, okay, I'm not gonna go for the darkest shit here. It's just gonna be D&D in reverse, but with the same kind of level of just, I guess, content warnings and so on as I would have for this group of players if we were playing D&D. But you can make this concept like probably always humorous, because it is just, yeah, it's Wicked Ones. You're building a little dungeon as monsters, but it can be very darkly humorous if you go there.
For those who haven't noticed, we did get a hydrate redeem, so make sure you're.
That was me.
I mean,
Make myself think more.
Because
I have 37,000 like channel points, and I don't know what to do with them. So
nothing set
just
up
randomly clicking on stuff. Yeah, might as well.
But I do want to say I think the game is designed to, I do think it's deliberately designed to encourage both from players, GMs, and even people hacking it and making their own thing, just good habits, like good player habits. It's good world building habits, good gaming habits, and I think that's something that's really important. Having those discussions at the table, encouraging people to be creative, being okay with everybody else's lines. These are all very important things, and I'm happy that one of the most popular games out there has helped push that to the forefront.
Yeah, and I think that's also, I mean, it's Blades in the Dark, but it's also something that is kind of, it's where it shows its PBTA lineage, because like the original Apocalypse world is not hard to GM in the way that you maybe first expected going in, which like I was like, okay, yeah, this is like Mad Max style, and then I went in, read it, and was like, oh, they're really fucking, like there's just a lot of sex stories.
Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. We're gonna have a discussion about that, I guess.
Yeah. No, I really agree with you there, Prince, to be like, yeah, it does give you so many better habits that is so hard if you're coming from D&D or something like that, because it's like you have a lot to unlearn that you just don't need here, and so that's good. Like you don't have to spend hours prepping if you're the GM. You don't gotta do that anymore.
It's less crunchy.
You can trust your other players to have those offers and like go into these more adult themes and stuff too, and like have those conversations. Like you don't have to know how much damage a gun does. The answer to that question is it depends.
You don't have to know how many feet away you are, like whose action it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think going back to the good habits, I think that's also kind of what is the sign of a well-made PBTA or Forged in the Dark game when it comes to the narrative framework is like it gives you a very good idea of genre. Like you know what this is kind of about, but it also gives you freedom to just fill in the blanks to the level that you're comfortable with, or that like matches the exact story that you want to tell. And that's then where it's like, okay, because the genre is very clear and the setting also often is very clear, like Blades in the Dark, the city of Dosgor, the different communities in Neon Black, the dungeon types in Wicked Ones, the play sets in in Girl by Moonlight. Like you know what questions you need to answer with the group, like okay, these are the things that could happen here. Like, how do we actually approach them? Like police brutality in Blades, or just existential angst in Girl by Moonlight, for example.
So much existential angst in Girl by Moonlight, let me tell you. It's actually really interesting on tone and genre. So, like for House of Starfall, we went more Saturday morning cartoons. I think our the siblings all have a parent who's like slightly Thundercats looking, and like very kind of cheesy, like that kind of level. But one of the players is in Bloom and Blight, which if you haven't watched or listened to Bloom and Blight, go do that. It's very great. And that is it's the same, or one of them was the same series. It is a completely different vibe. And it is way more serious, way more intense. It handles like how do you handle being a magical girl? Like and what do you do with the after effects of all that? And we're over here just going, this is Saturday morning cartoons. So you can totally same genre but completely different tone and conversation. So it's pretty cool that it has the range, it has the flexibility.
That kind of now you've set yourself up for the last kind of thing that I wanted to and this is also a reason why you were invited, is because you are an author. So narrative design and Forged in the Dark or PBTA systems. That's kind of the headline for that, and I'm just gonna let you go off if you want.
Oh, see, okay. Well, this is very interesting for me, somebody who writes, I write a lot of sci-fi fantasy short stories. I'm trying to get a novel accepted by an agent. It's all fine. It'll get there someday. But I sort of tripped into TTRPGs, like tripped and fell into Monster of the Week and fell in love with it. And then I have not really left that space since. So D&D was not my entry point. It was Monster of the Week and Powered by the Apocalypse.
You're welcome.
Yeah, honestly. So, yeah. When I did finally play a D&D, I was like, so can I do this, this, and this? And narratively, are we trying to do this? And I fully did, I think, kind of make the DM go like, well, you need to dial that back on the collaborative. Like, like they weren't
I
like
tell you
mean
what's
about it.
happening, you roll. Like,
Yeah,
that's
there
it.
was a little bit of like dial it down. I was like, but weren't we supposed to talk about? Like,
Isn't an RPG a conversation?
I literally,
Yeah.
I thought that was because again, Monster of
Yeah.
the Week is the starting point. What do you do when you do Monster of the Week? You have to set up your connections, your relationships before the game starts. You have to establish how you know each other, or if you've worked together, if you don't know each other, are you antagonistic, and so on and so forth. And Girl by Moonlight, and I feel like Blades in the Dark and Forged in the Dark systems tend to have that commonality of like how you're all connected, what's the story you're trying to tell. And I love that. I couldn't tell you from a narrative designer standpoint how to make that happen. But narratively, collaboratively, like storytelling, I just think it gives you a more interesting story because you get to talk about it and design it better. I don't know. I like it. I just think it's neat.
Yeah.
That's why so many people are, and this is a different system, but even kids on bikes in session 0, there's a list of questions you ask people and they roll. Like, oh, what is one thing that you would never want this person to know about you? How do you respond when this person sees you out and about? Like, again, D&D and so many other games, it's the meet in a tavern and they expect the relationship to be formed as you're playing, which for some is fine, and depending on how comfortable you are with your table and with role playing and acting, easy to step into. If you're other people who need a bit of structure or who it helps you to bounce ideas off of the person you're talking to about your relationship, like, hey Val, how would you feel if like we went to school together? Instead of me just being at the table in the tavern and I say, man, remember when we were back in school? And you're like, maybe your character didn't go to school at all. And now I've
can
decided
literally
that's part of your
not
story.
fathom someone being like, hey, so here's a backstory beat for you,
For you.
in the moment. I would have been like, excuse, pause.
You better
like,
yes and it. You better
Yeah.
yes and my story. Otherwise, you're the bad guy.
And I've never been in that situation, which I'm happy for. But yeah, I think that's just, I don't know. I just think that makes for a good story and good like role playing. And it's just a fun experience. And you get to really have a more dynamic, intense, and sometimes hilarious or terrible time by choice.
See, there are some people who don't do session 0s, and that blows my mind. Like, how would you do? Okay, you just drive around with no seatbelt, and you just hope that you never get into a car accident.
I'm such a big
Yeah,
proponent
some
of
people
session
do.
0s because it sets the tone.
Yeah.
Even if you don't do the safety part, which you should, but like even if you somehow didn't, it sets the expectations of what people want from the experience. Also
I
do the
need that.
Yeah.
safety stuff.
I mean,
From the largest portions of like, sorry, well, yeah, just from the largest portions of tone all the way down to like, are you allowed to eat at your table?
exactly like these things. Like I came into the hobby when session 0s and so on weren't really. I'm sure they were kind of a thing, but also not really. Like, I
Not
didn't
standard.
hear about them for like 7 or 8 years in the hobby. I came into this through Baldur's Gate, but the second one, not the third one. So that's like 2001 or 2002. I don't remember. And yeah, I mean, the kind of discussion around session 0s didn't really exist then. Not to the point that it is around now. At least not, this is also just when people were a lot less online. So I may have just missed it. Maybe it was actually a lot more common than I think it was, and I just never knew. But even so, like you would often recruit players by just leaving flyers for your campaign with a phone number in just game stores. And you would say like, okay, here's the pitch. And this is the tone, and this is what we're doing. And like you would then get everybody together, and there would be something session 0 like, even though it wasn't called a session 0, like we didn't have the terms for it, but it would be just kind of this expectation setting. There were no formalized safety tools that I ever used before like 2010, honestly, but there was a discussion at least. And even before this, which I mean, it's very good that we have session 0s and have more just kind of generalized expectations that the hobby has kind of agreed on outside of some strange circles that we don't need to talk about. Like, good, but we kind of already made do before that because it is so important. Yeah.
I've been playing role-playing games only slightly longer than Janis, like since '99. Uh, so, mm, and I actually started with Vampire the Masquerade,
Oh,
which
Oh
was one of
yeah.
the first games to ask you questions about your backstory in the game and ask you to collaborate with with the other players about that. I've been told by people both as a compliment and an insult in the way I play that it shows I started with Vampire, but
Damn.
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
but yeah, but yeah, I also remember Session Zero being very controversial in the space, which I immediately thought was weird because I knew so many people who were like, you know what? It's so messy trying to get everything done in the first session. We need to have a pre-session, and pre-session was actually one of the more commonly accepted terms before session zero
Yeah.
came to exist. And then some of those same people were like, we don't need a session zero. It's like, the fuck are you talking about?
You're doing
You're
it.
already doing
Yeah,
this.
you were already like doing something like that. Like it was like usually you would have a character building session because a lot of games were just also just crunchy on average.
Oh yeah,
Like you
like
would just sit down and just be like, okay, yeah, I'm building this guy, and you just naturally drift into these kind of discussions about like expectations, and suddenly it was a problem for some people because the word safety tools entered the discussion. It's ridiculous.
Safety. How dare?
yeah, the selling point, one of the selling points for Vampire the Masquerade back in the day was, oh, if you know what you're doing, you can build a character in like an hour. Like,
Wow. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like an online role playing game where you got to build your character. I'm like, what color do I want him to be? What?
Yeah.
You do end up with a lot of that.
like,
Hi,
Yeah.
readers.
building characters, that is another thing with modern games, and especially with Blades in the Dark. It is, you can feel like you have a pretty well-rounded fleshed character very quickly, where it used to be a lot of nickel and diming to get to that point with games. And some people have complained that so many bigger games have taken on those aspects, where it's like trying to cut off the fat and trim things down to like, okay, what actually is getting at the core experience here.
Mhm.
But those people are wrong, and you know what? There's still games out there for them. They can go play.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We have
there's lots of-
standards.
Yeah.
There's lots of games that actually like help flesh out those session zero conversations so that like you're doing a session zero as you're making your characters.
Mhm.
Like in Slug Blast, you'd be like, hey, if you're playing the heart, you get to decide what the crew name is going to be. Everyone can make suggestions, but you have final say.
Aw.
If you're playing the smarts, you get to add more portals to the map. If you're playing like the gut or the grits, like you get to pick where all the kids hang out, like as part of the whole shebang, right?
I love
So,
that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
There's another example of that, of course, which brings us to another game that you've made, which I'm looking at like, oh, maybe I'm going to run this. Blood and Tears.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have vampire types based on the different humors, and I think like one of them is like, if you are this vampire, you have final say on vampire weakness. I don't actually remember. You probably do because you wrote it, but like, there's
Yeah, there's like I can't remember because like the sanguine vampire, you get final say over like NPCs and like
Yeah.
introducing new characters. The melancholic has final say over like mysteries or magic.
yeah.
I think it's the choleric one. You get final say over like calamities and like consequences and stuff like that. But yeah, like each playbook has like if you're playing, there's like different ways to play. But if like you want to play with like out a GM or like play solo, they're like, hey, if you're playing this kind of vampire, you get to contribute these things to the story specifically. Like you get final say over XYZ.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
Which
goes
is
from
also,
game
I think-
mechanics to like aesthetic stuff. But yeah.
Which is also, I think, just a very cool use of playbooks. I mean, I'm kind of doing something similar just by way of Prince in our Blades game right now is playing somebody who has deep family ties to the church. And I was like, okay, cool. Whatever you say is true about the church, that's true. We have Glaiza, who is Glaiza is on a quest to introduce Filipino culture into every single game that Shah ever plays. And we have turned the Dagger Isles in Blades in the Dark into the Philippines. So it's like, okay, any Dagger Isles related lore, like I'm just going to ask Glaiza, and whatever Glaiza says stands.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, things like that. And it's cool to also see that then just as an actual playbook mechanic, and also just open that up more, just not in terms of lore, but also, well, it is still lore because it's all kind of part of the conversation, but it is also affecting just very much the flow of the game. And that's actually, I think that's very cool. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Like it was also like a doing investigation into like vampire lore to write it. There was a lot of like, you need some like hard and fast rules that everyone kind of agrees on, but then there's a bunch of other stuff. It's like, hey, what kind of weaknesses and powers? And like, it's inviting people to like, the vampires that exist in this story are going to abide by different rules than other stories. And like, it could bring in stuff from a bunch of different cultures. Like, is a vampire power that your head can detach and fly around and stuff like that?
How do you feel about crossing water?
Exactly.
Yeah,
like reflections, that kind of thing. Like it's like we've been saying, it's all a conversation, and the like bringing that stuff like a vampire myth into it makes it even like more abundantly so. It's like, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff it could be. Let's talk about specifically what we want to see here and why.
I had not realized that game was yours. I had, I haven't. I tried to get it off the ground, but scheduling is a true great great evil that will never be defeated.
No, we will be living in the promised land of super gay space communism, and scheduling will somehow still be an issue.
Yeah.
I a friend of mine once like cracked a joke like, and like, man, I really wish the apocalypse would come because then I could just crack out my books and run a game. But somehow I know at least one person's is going to be busy with dysentery or something.
I can't make it. I've got dysentery. I don't know. This is, maybe it's just me as I don't say lazy GM, but I was originally planning hours and hours and hours, and then my people would be like, I want to go swimming, and I'm like, I guess we're doing a beach episode. I did do all this planning for it, so now everything you do at the beach is up to you. How many people are at the beach, GM? I don't know. You tell me. Is it a busy day? I'm not planning this anymore. I had this plan, and if you'd like to do something or interact with it and you want to build that world out for me, you go into a shop. Okay, is it a nice shop? Are you rich or are you poor? Does security watch you? Like, I'm not doing that anymore. If you'd like to build this world with me because you want to divert from what I originally had planned, I'll roll with you. But I'm just going to be writing down what you say happens.
That gives your players more agency and what do you call it? Buy-in, I guess. Like they care more about what that world you've all created together, where it's going to look like.
Idea,
they care about them more because they've helped create it. You didn't just hand it to them. They went, no. We said that shop is too fancy and fuck that shop.
Yeah. So later on, when you come by and there's someone who's like burning it down. Or was it because there was someone who was mad about their wealth? Is it a competitor? Is it really truly an accident? He burned it down for his own insurance money? No, I've got something to work with. If you tell me it was a bougie shop, everything attached to bougie shops is now in my head. Yeah, there's a guy at security at the front desk, and he doesn't let you in because he sees that you're wearing regular leather armor and not the fancy armor like everyone else in the store.
Yeah, honestly, that's also kind of why I'm glad that PBTA and Forge in the Dark systems have become so successful. Like, there's still the game, like D&D and games that are D&D but a little different, like Daggerheart and Pathfinder and Drosty, are still like much bigger, like get a much bigger market share at least. But at least PBTA and Forge in the Dark are in the conversation. because I feel like Ariel, what you describe about like players that then just run off on their own and just want to have like a beach episode or something.
Yeah.
These players are not served by D&D, but they often just get sorted into D&D because it is so fucking big.
Yep.
And like it's good to have a big alternative for people that want to have more just narrative input and just control, or just not even control, more like an open conversation. It's just a lot of the time these players have already kind of settled into D&D and picked up D&D habits that don't necessarily actually work out for them that well, but like it's good to have this alternative of a more just conversation focused and narrative focused narrative forward system.
Yeah, it's a whole fucking thing. Could go on and on about like being an indie designer and like being in this space is so weird, because stuff is like, I think, to try to tie it back to what we're talking about with like the Blaze of Dark and Forge of the Dark games, one of the things we've been saying that's really good about it is because it gives you all these really great habits as a player, as a GM, and as a storyteller, and as a collaborative storyteller, that the big like actual play shows that keep playing D&D and shit are good at, because not because of the system, but because you have decades worth of improvisers and storytellers in a room together. Of course they're good at it. You could put a deck of cards in the middle of that table, you get hours of content.
Yeah.
Because it's their job. They're really good at doing that. And what these other games are good at is giving you those tools too. It gets you used to having to improvise. It gets you used to having to like have characters that change very suddenly and often in worse ways before they get better. It's getting used to like literal narrative arcs that are like spelled out for you in game mechanics.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We all mimic that idea, and you're like, no, that's literally just people who are professional voice actors.
Yeah.
That's what they did. Some of them have theater majors. They've all taken classes for this. You, as someone who's never done that, are not going to perform at that same level, and that's fair.
Yeah,
honestly,
totally.
Most of them are not even good at playing the game, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly,
No,
like,
yeah, they're watching for them.
that's fine.
So right though.
Or they forget their own stuff. You know, like you're like the GM knows this book back and forth, but you don't have your sheet available, so you don't know what you're doing. Cool.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
I mean, I just had a game, I just had a campaign where none of us walked out, I think, really understanding the system. And it was still good, so it's fine. Did have a lot of just moments where, we just kind of hung up on just figuring out how something works in the game. I'm sometimes surprised when people that have played D&D for 10 years have that issue, but like it's okay.
Yeah,
You can
it's interesting
still
to be
tell
learning
good
in front of
stories,
other
but-
people.
Yeah.
Or to have freedom of
Sometimes.
saying, oh, you know, I don't know that rule. Let me just make it up right now. That's cool. I know it's not going to break the system to kind of work around it when I can't find this exact specific rule and 300 pages worth of rules. So whatever you want is whatever happens right now.
Yeah, it's like system mastery is a skill, but it is also a skill that is taking up time and effort to develop, that you could be spent in doing other things even within the games you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
Okay.
it's a very different way of approaching the hobby that other people get a lot of like entertainment and value out of. But like we're all the same kind of, you know, writer brain, narrative brain people. Like we would all like after this go play a role-playing game together and have a great time, because we kind of care about all the same kind of things, right? We care about good stories and collaboration and stuff like that. And some people go to these like they want to do the system mastery. They want to do like the GM is like a video game and you're like playing in the world, you're like making a build, and that's fun for people. Great. Not for me.
Yeah, one of my players, and I do play a little differently with them than I do with the other two people at my home table. This person is trying to break their character. They are pouring over tons of information online. They're looking at other people's builds. They're plotting out this character from like level 2 to level 20 to maximize what specific thing they want done with this character.
Mm-hmm.
The other two are there like, that's fine, I don't care. This makes more sense for my character narratively, so I chose that. And we each have different kinds of desires and wants at a table. I think Maya gave me one for our Juneteenth or Old Orbital Blues that we were doing last year, and it was like, what kind of player are you? Are you a powerhouse? You want to fight? Are you a narrative-driven person? Are you a GM's assistant where you see the GM is trying to do something and you just as a player voice it because you know that's where the story is going? You kind of need all sorts to make a table function well. You can't have one person kind of overpowering anyone or have a table of just one kind of player. But collectively, storytelling, OP person, the rules lawyer person can get a really beautiful story and table going. All aspects.
Yeah, and I mean also, like I came into this through D&D. I spent a lot of time on the D&D character optimization message boards way back.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like there was always a kind of divide between, and again, this was mostly people who only had D&D, and that was all we knew, kind of. There was always this divide of, do you just start with a completely blank canvas and just pick the best things for your character and just make something that is purely based in the mechanics? This is how you end up with something that is like, okay, I pick this specific ancestry for the bonuses and take a level of this, and that, and you have like 10 different.
I've got a +8. Like, how
yeah.
the fuck do you get a +8? You're level 6.
Yeah.
And at that point, I have fully dissociated out of the conversation.
I could probably still build a very overpowered like D&D 3.5 character, which I mean, it begins and ends with you play a wizard or a druid. But anyway, like.
You're right. But...
You don't even have to do much after that. You just need to know like the spell book and so on. But no, there was always this divide between those people, or this kind of branch of character optimization, and then, well, I have this concept, and how do I make it as good as possible? And that's kind of where I landed with it, because I wanted to have this kind of, I had this specific narrative idea. But D&D is like, you can.
People got spreadsheets.
Yeah, but
like this has been taken to Excel level.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, D&D is like, you can't win D&D, but you can definitely lose D&D.
Ooh, that's
you can make a very bad.
Yeah.
You can make a terrible character that accomplishes nothing and then just dies to a wolf or something.
Oh yeah, like the person who's like, I built this character for this, and then you talk to your GM and you're like, you're very, very strong. And I, as a GM, knew you were building a strong character. All of your checks will be intelligence based.
That's fine.
So that's the only way that I can combat that and make it fair and balanced at this point. If you're gonna break that portion of the game, I'm not gonna touch it. I'm gonna go someplace else.
Yeah, I mean that's fine to an extent, but if that just becomes this kind of adversarial relationship, that's a problem. But
it builds itself to be that.
More, the point was more like in these systems, you kind of have to. You don't need to optimize, but you need to be at a level where like you match the difficulty that is set by the GM, or that you kind of is kind of in tune in terms of character optimization with the rest of the table. And that is something that can be like, it's at least an extra conversation to have, and
it's another session 0 question.
Yeah, like how? Yeah, it's very hard to just narrow it down though, and that's why I also why I gravitate more towards playing the narrative focused systems now, because like you can optimize to some extent in Forge in the Dark, like for sure. There are definitely playbook abilities that are a bit better than others, like of course. That's okay, but you don't have to have this entire conversation of like, okay, how optimized is your party? Because, well, it's not like we have an agreed on scale of that. Like, is optimized that you can kill an ancient dragon at level 8, or what is optimized? Like, it's just weird. That's
and
why
if you do optimize for one thing, you're pigeonholed. It
Yeah.
does somewhat limit what the story is going to do or what your game is going to do, how your interactions are going to be within that world. Getting a fair balance across the board or being a more narrative focused game, once again, allows for that wiggle room. It doesn't have to be or again, the dying thing. Any system now, I was so used to you 0 hit points. Now your character's dead, kind of. These are also games where dropping to a certain level or getting to you're just receiving a minor harm or a major harm kind of stuff. That's way it allows for more story and more options, more ways to keep going.
Yeah, that is, by the way, something that I really like about the recent. Yeah, I didn't like that at first. Far in the dark, because it was just always a bit nebulous. But now I like it because in the recent, or at least to me, it was a bit like I didn't really know what to do with harm, and it was very hard to make it go away. So it was just, I didn't like to play with harm a lot in Forge in the Dark because it took so many downtime activities to get rid of. And now now that we have the Deep Cuts add-on for blades, which I'm probably going to retrofit on a lot of existing Forged in the Dark systems in some ways. Like harm is a tag that you can invoke to make something more difficult for you, but then it also becomes an XP trigger. And again, there's like, it's another mechanic. Like Forged in the Dark games are often more mechanics oriented than you would maybe first think from a very narrative system, but it is a mechanic that's like, here's what that does narratively. Like, here's an extra problem, an extra knife that you can turn upon yourself, and it gives you something in return.
That's what I really like about the Girl by Moonlight version of that, which is going into Eclipse. And I'm just gonna, like, the definition of Eclipse is that you've known all along that changing fate was impossible, yet here you are, so much wasted effort and wasted time. If this fate was inevitable, why not embrace it? You set aside caution for instinct and pursue a direct course of action, heedless of consequence. So once you get enough stress and you go into Eclipse, you have to do ridiculous shit. And it's so narratively fun. And haven't gotten there yet, but I'm really close a couple times. Might happen.
It's that system of you got to your breaking point. Now what happens?
Now narratively play that out. You've been stressed, you're in Eclipse. What does that look like for you? And how are you gonna play that out? And what does that look like?
Fun.
It's so great. It's just such an interesting extra tension point. And I don't know. I'm in love with the system.
It's so human. Like I respond very differently when I'm stressed out. I'm able to do more things when I've had a full meal. Do not come talk to me at 6 a.m. I will growl at you. That's fine. Like I am a different person at different points of my life. And it makes sense for my character to be as well.
Yeah. The stress system in general, like I think is one of the best parts of the game. Like just simplifying that sort of meta currency into, hey, it sucks. It takes a lot of effort to get this shit done, but you're getting it done anyway.
I will say, I think that's also where we still have a little bit of possible design space to explore, because like in standard blades, it's mostly a binary, like you accrue stress points and then at a certain point you snap. Like you just get traumatized, and then has consequences depending on what version you're playing. I'm not sure. There are probably games that really make more use of stress points that I can't think of right now.
I mean, Blade 68 does this really cool thing where instead of getting traumas, you have like keys and the locks. So like you have aspects of your character that you're calling on initially, like brave, and then when you hit that, you're getting XP. But then if you fill out your stress meter, brave can now like suddenly become like foolhardy and stuff like that, or like get better or worse depending on the context. Or you can do something called turning the key. So if you you've hit that a bunch, you can then make it a fixed lock, but then also get like a critical success or whatever you're about to do that is related to that. So it's a neat little thing. Was like, yeah, these things are still permanent, but like they can be good or bad depending on where you're at in your resources or in the story.
That's a very cool mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the saddest parts of like I ran a Blade 68 game for Juneteenth, and because it's a one shot, I didn't really get to play with the whole keys mechanic, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh damn, like that's
Yeah,
so cool.
I remember reading about the keys mechanic when I was like when it was up on, I think it was Backer Kid or Kickstarter, but I think it was Backer Kid, and yeah, I completely forgot about it. Yeah, well, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on last thing about like Forge the Dark design that I've seen coming up lately is kind of going off this thing like stress and trauma and like these narrative ways and mechanical ways of making sure like you have ways of giving your character an arc. So like they start worse or like they start in a good place, they get worse, they get better. Slugmaster does this with beats, Blaze does it with like the trauma system, and I'm starting to see like games. I think Sword Opera does this, which is like a really cool like swashbuckling like melodramatic game of having mechanics like, hey, do you want your character to fail this right now? Like, hey, there's gonna be a roll, and be like, you know what? No, actually, I think I lose this duel. I think that's appropriate for where my character's at right now, and it gives you a bunch of rewards for doing so, like XP and stuff like that. Where it's like, yeah, sometimes in a story, especially at the beginning, you suck, and you shouldn't let the dice decide you don't suck at this because
Yes.
it'd actually be a really better idea for you to like have this fall from grace, where you can't get any shit done, and then you rise again or whatever the hell. Like it's so interesting to see designers figure out this idea of like we're so often like trying to like tune for like success and stuff like that, but we're also trying to see games that are tuned for like no, we should like be able to pick and choose moments where our characters fail and what that means for the character in the story.
Yeah. We're not being beholden to some polyhedral plastic or
Yeah.
like digital ones and zeros when you hit a button on it with your mouse. Like,
Well, I like that too because then it allows you to go, okay, if I fail this, what does that actually look like narratively? Do we want to pursue that? It encourages you to test that out versus going, oh, well, failing is bad. I don't want to
Yep.
fail. Like
Mhm.
that's not rewarding for you. But if you go, oh, but I can get XP from it, and it might make more interesting story choices. So then you're incentivized to kind of take that little dip your toe in it and see what that looks like. And I like that because yeah, no one wants to feel bad for failing, but
but we're still conditioned to.
right. And
yeah,
it's I think narratively it's less of a pass fail and more of a what happens if you I guess more of like a yes and or no but like no you failed this but
Yeah.
now there's something different that's going to happen than if you had succeeded it, and it's not necessarily a punishment like that, or it can be if you want it to be, and that's different. Yeah, I like that.
yeah. And I
I
think just yeah, I also like that a lot. And I think just Fortune in the Dark in general has this kind of baked in two ways. The first is just Devil's Bargains were just initially a way to just get an extra die or something, and have kind of immediately evolved into, well, if this terrible thing happens, I'm just going to let you do it without rolling it, to the point where it's now just codified in deep cuts that anything can be a Devil's Bargain.
Mhm.
At the same time, you can also just pile on risk for more reward. So it just kind of goes both ways. Like you can push your luck, or you can just automatically say, well, narratively, if this thing happens to me, I get this out of that. And just, yeah, both are possible.
There's something to be said about getting something even though you lost something, or the failing forward mentality, which a lot of other games do have, or you failed by only by this much. It's partial success versus it's a full success, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and this is equally for like the old heads and the newcomers on the panel. How you feel, because we've touched on this a bit, but like how you feel the narrative aspects of the game influence like how you approach the mechanics specifically. Like, what do you? How does that make you envision like what these roles are about or what you're doing?
From a GM side,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the like partial success, full success kind of stuff, I feel like I don't have to cushion my players. There are a lot of times, and again, we're talking about some of the major systems, but I've been playing with my characters and realized like, oh no, I did pick a monster who's too OP for you, or you aren't rolling really well today, and none of y'all have hit, and it's the 4th round, and if he gets one more hit, one of you is going to go down, and we don't want that. So having a devil's bargain, having those narrative outlets, to me means I can be a little harsher. It's like what Janis was saying before. There's more room to wiggle out of something, so I can squeeze a little tighter almost.
Yeah.
And then know that the result will be a narrative result. It's going to drive the story forward regardless. It's not going to stop the momentum of whatever is happening.
Yeah, and a lot of this is also that a lot of the time in Forged in the Dark games, because there's a whole conversation about how a dice roll is going to happen, which is that I'm very used at this point to games with mixed successes and the kind of yes and no but and so on matrix baked into it. But in Blades, there's often kind of a conversation which can be as simple as that, yeah, position is risky, a success is standard, let's go. But it can be a bit more nuanced. That's kind of what affects my GMing, because I tend to have a lot more open-ended conversations of like, well, yeah, okay, this is unlikely to work, but perhaps if this and this and that, and you also give me a flashback, then perhaps this could be something you can do. It's kind of a more useful way of saying, well, you can certainly try. It's more like, well, we can establish a few things that would make your attempt more likely to. Yeah. That's kind of, I think, that's the main difference I find in my own GMing when I play Forged in the Dark versus something else.
December, like, I know you've run 68, and obviously both run and made a variety of Forged in the Dark games, but like 68 and traditional Blades are in the same world, just but in different genres. And do you feel like that makes you approach the mechanics differently, even though they're like so similar?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Not really. I kind of do run them the same way. It's just the palette's different.
What do you mean by palette?
Like, so Blades of the Dark is like, as a genre, is like dark, occult, Victorian. Blade 68 is like exploitation, 60s, 70s era, like tie-dye colors, Cold War shenanigans. So like the words, the descriptive phrases, and like the people, the characters, the factions I'll pull from will look very different for those two. But at the end of the day, you're still like playing people who are like in over their heads, trying to survive, doing incredibly dangerous shit.
Like Gracers and Mob bosses versus hackers and dark web folks.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, kind of like, I don't really know how like the narrative aspects influence how I'm seeing the mechanics. The only thing that came up on the top of my mind was like, depending on like the playbook and the character who's like doing something, some things will be roles and some things won't be. You know what I mean? So like, I have like a spy character in like the operative in this Blade 68 game I'm running, and like there are moments where that character will like lie or like do something else, would be like, yeah, you just do that. Whereas some other characters who are like more like physical, like the veteran, will be like, no, if you try to lie, that's always going to be a role because you're bad at it. Like, you're just a very physical person, and like there's stakes when you try to lie to someone, whereas like the spy will get away with that most of the time, right? Yeah. Val, did you want to say how?
I was gonna say, I've never GM'd a day in my life, but as a pretty much, I have played in a lot of one shots and a few mini campaigns now. Just overall, I really like how, depending on like the playbook you pick, like for me with Girl by Moonlight, the time traveler, my character, I pitched it as, can I be Magical Girl Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. Can I just be that level? And my GM was like, obviously yes, but that influences how they interact with everything. They're the broody person. Everyone's like being magical. It's like, well, in my era, in my time, this didn't work, and we're all dead. And they're like, okay, let's like calm down. You're like, I'm like the edgy one comparatively.
I thought
And
you
it's-
meant Little Trunks, who's like
No,
not,
Future Trunks,
not Fusion Hot
hot,
Trunk.
hot fusion man. No,
I was like,
no,
he was so
Future
fun.
Trunks.
What do you mean, Broody? And I-
No, Future Trunks. You know, the timeline angsty boy.
Yeah.
And so that how the moves I picked, you know, knowing that I wanted to be that edgy little mess, really influences how I use my time, my little time powers and stuff like that. And I don't think about it beyond that. I think every GM, Janis knows this, I have dyscalculia, so I can't do numbers in my head very well. So that was actually a big barrier to entry for me with D&D, where you would have people like, well, you have this modifier, you have this, you have to roll a d20 and a d10 and a
much.
d12, and I'm like, you've made me cry.
Round
That's
up,
too
round
much.
down. Half
And
damage for this.
yet I literally cannot hold those numbers in my head, and I used to feel really like not smart for that. But then I found out, oh no, I literally have an actual like disability. It's not like I'm just dumb. And that helped a lot. And then Powered by the Apocalypse stuff is all D6s, and Forge in the Dark I think is largely also D6s. I don't think it's different than that. For Girl by Moonlight, it's not anyway. But and that helps a lot because that's very simple math. And you get to focus on the narrative. And then, you know, if you're sitting at a good table, your GM can help you with any extra modifiers, stuff like that, if you ever run into that. And that just made it more accessible, and it made it more fun. And I just think that's why I've ended up in this part of the kiddie pool that I've ended up in.
I didn't know that. What is it? The FICO, the number after hit or something, or IPO that was in D&D 2. There was so much more math. And I yeah, I missed that.
To
But-
hit AC 0, yes, the
Tycho,
old days
Kiko,
of Taco.
yeah.
Taco, yeah, it's to hit armor class 0, so you have to count backwards. It's so weird.
So make me
Yeah.
Makes
subtract.
no sense.
Not nice.
Never made sense, but yeah,
It
it's
is
fine.
beautiful now, saying like, oh no, you're just gonna roll a d6. Is a number higher than a 4? Like, there literally children could do this. And while you're not a stupid or a child, well, obviously, there are some people who do like. D&D can be hard. I've been in something for a month and been like, oh shit, I've been rolling the wrong thing. I'm supposed to be adding this, not this. Or I had a character that was like, oh, I can do this as a bonus action. Shit, I should have been doing this the whole time. Like it can really start to get very crunchy, very math heavy, to the point where you'll forget what you have available to you. Meaning you're not using something as a major feature because you can't keep it in your head long enough, which makes sense. But you're like, oh no, roll 1 dice. What number is it? 4? Cool. I can do that.
Yeah. Or with the Girl by Moonlight stuff, and I don't know how this translates over to Blades in the Dark or Forge in the Dark overall, but you have your sun, moon, and stars, and so each of those categories you can like defy or empathize or express, things like that. So if you're like, I'm gonna roll with sun, specifically, I'm gonna defy what you're doing. I have a little point in that. I get to roll 1 more d6, and that gives you an advantage, but it's also a narrative, like how you're choosing to do that. I'm defiantly telling you to go eat shit or whatever.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Girl by Moonlight is a very derived design, and it's very just like, yeah, there are things in there that I don't know have a real just like
that's
direct analog, but it is a resistor, but also not. I've never played Girl
It's
by
a little
Moonlight.
different.
It's the extra part of resist. Okay, I'm resisting, but how are you resisting?
Right.
That's the same thing. If I walked up and I said,
liberating.
give me your wallet versus can I have $5?
Yes. Yeah.
Both ways can be successful.
Which I really like, because
but
it helps you flavor a roll a little bit too, but you're still getting a stat. Like if you have a point in that, you get, another d6, I think. And so it gives you basically advantage, I guess. And yeah.
Yeah. And I also I do like math to some extent in games, but what I like about the kind of D6 mechanic of Blades, it has kind of an issue in that once characters get very experienced and get a lot of dots, like it becomes very hard for them to get challenged. But until you get there, and that's fine because you still get like at least 20 sessions usually out of a campaign. That's more than long enough most of the time. What I like about it a lot is that there's a lot of just fucky math there that you can get into if you want, but the only thing you ever really need to explain is like, okay, if you roll a single die, you have a 50% chance of failing. For every die that you add, the chance of failure gets cut in half. And that's really all you need to know. Like you can kind of extrapolate from that, like how good 2 or 3 dice are, because you know, like, okay, this is my chance of failure. And whether or not you get a mixed success or critical, like, yeah, that changes, and the math for that is very weird, but it's not the main thing. Like you do not, like you can very easily explain, like, okay, this is your chance of failure here, if that concerns you so much. Most of the time, the people who play Blaze are like, let's roll whatever. But
Literally never bothered to count the
Yeah.
percentage like that a day in my life. I'm like, man, I just roll and see what happens.
As soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that maths.
Yeah, you're like, this sounds right, but I have never done this math a day.
No, I know. A lot of the people are so narrative brained that they're like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. I'm just going to
Yeah.
do it anyway. But
That's what mine is.
Explain it like that. Yeah. It's possible.
I am not a game designer, but I am a game design nerd. So I am interested in TTRPG game design. And one of the things that has always stuck with me, like I learned early on, was complexity is the money that you spend to buy depth in a game. And you, just like with money, you want to get the most while spending the least. So you want the least amount of complexity for the most amount of depth. And I think that is one place that Blades is just an incredible bargain.
Hell yeah.
Like the Forge in the Dark games, like as a system, like they are an incredible bargain in terms of like we've seen just from these small bits of like all these different games with very similar mechanics, how much you can get out of them. Like it's just an incredible, you get a lot of depth with, like Val said, not having to get into like in adding and subtracting
Pluses
and figuring
and
out
adds.
multiplications. And I say this as someone who, like, some of the games I play weekly outside of Blades have multiplication and adding 4 or 5 different things as like just their base, and I enjoy those games. But also, there's a reason I play Forge in the Dark a lot.
I don't want to play algebra. Hey guys, you want to come outside and play calculus?
On that note, we are, I think, at the end of the panel, more or less. So we can start going through what we have played or will be playing. And Ariel, I'm going to leave you for last again. For reasons. I'm actually going to start with Prince, because your vote of a certain Juneteenth game is still on the channel for people to watch. It's not yet up on YouTube, but will be soon. So Prince, who are you? What have you done? And what will you do in the future?
Hi, I'm Prince, Prince Infidel. If you just love playing games, he, him, you can find me various places on the internet, including right here, playing Elogy, where what do? I make Janis have to come up with some wild bullshit on the fly.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, 11 a.m. EST, or whatever or less important time zone you may live in.
Savage.
I have also run a Blade 68 game for Juneteenth, whose VOD is apparently still up on our channel. But will be going up on YouTube at some point. I'm sure is on the schedule. I have not looked at and will not look at.
It is. It is
Hell yeah.
not on any kind of schedule because Imani has already worked herself almost to death by just making the Juneteenth event happen. But when the world needs it most, the Juneteenth VOD will just appear on YouTube. And in the meantime, we can just set it as a Twitch highlight so it stays here, and we should probably do that. But yeah,
You can follow our channel to figure out when it goes
Yeah.
live.
yeah. Okay, sometime next week. All right.
Sometime.
Are they in the
Yeah.
chat?
Yeah. Other things that may be coming up. Val, you are in, I think it's still ongoing, a Girl by Moonlight campaign, but also there's something else coming up that I'm not sure you're allowed to talk about. If so, please tell us about it. If not, ignore anything I just said.
But yes, hi, I'm Val or Space Valkyries. You can find me pretty much everywhere at Space Valkyries. I try my bestest to stream once a week on Wednesdays at twitch.tv/Space Valkyries if you want to find me there. I am in a Girl by Moonlight mini-series that is taking a little bit of a surprise break because one of our players got a really cool life opportunity to go do a cool thing. So you gotta let that, you gotta take those moments when you got them. So we're on a little bit of a pause, but we'll be back in August. And then I will be doing a fundraising one shot at a place at a time. It will be Blades in the Dark. I can't really say much more than that, but it will be cool. And also I did a Dungeons and Kittens one shot on Fawning Games channel, and you can find the VOD of that on their YouTube channel at Fawning Games. It was for Free RPG Day, which is today. Dungeons and Kittens is free if you want the little quick start. It's very cute. And if you want a system that does something interesting where you have to basically roll a d6 and pick the lower. So if your stat is a 3, you have to get a 3 or lower. So if your RNG is bad, this game is for you. It's for me. My dice rolls are bad. So Dungeons and Kittens is super cute. And that's all I think I've been right now. Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to very quickly say something about me. And the only thing Forge in the Dark related I'm doing right now is honestly Blades in the Dark, The Revenants. Every Saturday for a little while longer as we figure out just what kind of terrible things we want to fit into the last sessions. And then we kind of we're currently behind the scenes figuring out how many sessions we need to drive the characters into the ground even further. And we'll see how long that actually takes. But we're definitely in the home stretch there.
If you're watching this and are not watching their sessions of Blades, you should. I tuned in to the one this morning, and they're getting wild. They're like Prince's character asks the demon Satara if they're the jealous type. They're like feeding ketamine to goth girls. It's incredible. It's a good time.
And with that, December, you can continue on as we have our outros. You may or may not be in actual plays. I'm not sure that's something you do, but currently, but you have a lot of games that people may want to buy now after hearing about them.
Yeah, they should. Yes, I'm December. I'm a trans writer and TTRPG maker. You can find my games mostly at notwriting.itch.io, including a game I released just today for Free RPG Day called Have You Been a Good Girl, which is a messy, sapphic, trans duet game where you DM your friends weird sci-fi stories and try to win at storytelling, and it's free.
Nice.
It's free.
For everybody.
I was hoping to pay money for that so I could use it as a gift for certain people.
There will be a paid version later that has like additional material, but like the basic rules are always going to be free. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then last but not least, actually possibly for the channel at least, one with the most important announcement is Ariel.
Okay.
Because we've been talking about your Mutants in the Night game for a bit. So
yes.
Yeah, Ariel, take it away.
My name is Ariel. I'm 1/5 the crew here at Find Out Productions. I use they, them pronoun. You can find me on the internet at sirenmademodules. I have our first episode of our Mutants in the Night campaign. It's airing next Monday, July 6th is when we're starting. It is my first time playing this system, GMing this system. In the first few, I was just looking at the Mutants in the Night rules before I started delving into it and realizing I had to read the actual rule book first. It was kind of supplementary. So there's a change like the 3 episodes in, but it's a great time. We're exploring really intense topics. It is a darker game. It also somewhat relates to what's going on in the world right now. I am working through my trauma live with other people who are working through trauma. So tune in next Monday, July 6th for episode 1 of Mutants in the Night here on Find Out Productions.
Yeah. And yeah, that is it. I'm going to, for Twitch, not for YouTube. For YouTube, it's going to be in the video description. For YouTube, I'm going to put the link to December's freshly released free game in the chat right now. And that's it. Buy all of December's games, ruin yourselves financially doing that or not, but that's your decision.
We're all on sale right now, so
you know,
do it.
But you know, at least check the games out. Watch all our stuff. Subscribe to us if you want. And yeah, thank you for watching, and we will see you for something else next time. Goodbye.